All right, we're actually live. That barely made it. What's up, y'all?
Hey, good morning, everybody.
All right, guys. Coach David here.
Professor Muhammad.
All right, and we got our podcast back going. It's so quiet here compared to the summer because we have 100 kids running around for the summer program. So, what's good, Coach? How's your week going?
It's going good. It's this weather is something else. We're gonna be like 70s, mid 70s for the next 10 days.
You a cold weather guy?
I'm a fall person in Michigan.
Are you like Michigan fall?
Oh yeah, the fall is the best time of year here.
Have you ever been to like Traverse for the fall, or even up north?
Oh yeah. It's amazing to see nature change its season during this time of year in Michigan.
Yeah, it's a big travel destination. I think Instagram and TikTok for that. Like, have you ever been to the Pictured Rocks? Like that hike up there?
I have not.
I have not.
Yeah.
It's worth going. We got lost there. I almost fell off a cliff, and we had to call the nature patrol to come and help us. It was like 4 a.m. when they found us. We were lost in those woods. So when I think of fall, that's my core memory.
Yeah, you got lost in the woods.
In the hike. Yeah, it's probably like a 20 or 30 mile hike if you do it all, but like we just did the short 8-mile hike.
Yeah.
But it's like 2 miles out to the shoreline/cliff line.
Yeah.
And then we got lost, because we started the hike. People normally start this hike at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
We started it. I was like, 5 p.m. That's when we started it.
Oh.
Yeah. So it got pet, and it was like a full moon or a new moon. So it was a new moon. So it was pitch black. Like I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. So yeah, so that's what I think of. But what are we talking about today?
We're talking about jiu-jitsu, of course, and black belt.
Did you say Joe's on here?
Joe was a second ago.
So because he's actually, the inspiration from this came from our affiliate Palm Jiu-Jitsu's obviously black belt promotions. They had a couple good ones, and Coach Carl's the man, dude. Coach Carl was there. Coach Alvarez was there, and he's always got good feedback, good challenging thoughts. He'll challenge your psyche a little bit.
Yeah, a good coach forces you to think.
Mm-hmm.
A good coach, because it's got to be your idea, your training, your commitment, your sacrifice. It's got to be your idea, and a good coach definitely forces you to think.
He for sure. I've got a lot of respect for him, and then he's just he's like a savage in terms of his physicality too. So he's not just like a mentally strong. He's physically strong as well. So we talked about what to talk about what we require as a black belt. For a black belt at Metro, it's important to talk about kind of what the standard used to be. So what did the standard used to be? We'll start just historically. Like, what did it used to require to earn a black belt under other schools, or what does it look like for other schools in a lot of schools?
Yeah, so jiu-jitsu many years ago, I would say a purple belt today is equivalent to a black belt probably 20, 30 years ago or more.
The 90s?
Yeah,
I'd say of the 90s for sure.
Yeah, so the evolution of jiu-jitsu, sport jiu-jitsu, combat jiu-jitsu, UFC, the evolution is it's completely different today than it was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe so yeah, and I think too because if you go from like the 90s, they were hyper focused on like combative self-defense jiu-jitsu. I know even Hickson today, like Hickson Gracie, he's got an opinion on the black belts of today, saying that, that we remind him of karate black belts that he used to beat up and this and that. And the argument is, so there's two different styles though too, right? So it's like, if you're focused hyperly on sport, like that is one style of jiu-jitsu. And then, but Hickson and Hoyce and, Carlson and those guys there, they were like legit, like, they were there to beat people up.
Yeah, so they the history of where they played a role in history of jiu-jitsu is they wanted to prove that this style is the best style of martial arts.
Yeah.
So that was their objective. Their
Yeah.
objective was
Yeah.
nothing more that it wasn't even belts at the time. You know, I don't know when and how they started their own belt system, but like those guys had like literally no rules fighting for years.
Yeah.
You know, then they went into Pride and UFC and, you know,
so that when like when they were training in Brazil, they had no belt system.
I don't know when they came out, but like, or who said, okay, we're going to create a, you know, a ranking system for,
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And if you had to give some type of criteria, the only thing that it was measurable is fighting. Like literally you go into somebody else's gym or they come into your gym and, you know, it's a fight.
Yeah, they would dojo storm it, which hey man, it worked though. I mean, it worked. Like I know, like when we did that challenge, we kind of did a great challenge at the street fair because not many people do that anymore. You know, it's a huge liability or insurance or whatever. But like to be able to see it real time, I don't think people fully saw it, right? So like when we did those $60 and 60-second challenges or whatever, people got to see jujitsu, even though they've seen it from the 90s and the Hoist and them. Like Coach Park says, the IBJJF. Of course, why am I not surprised that the IBJJF came up with the belt system? Instructors wore a navy blue belt and everyone else was a white belt. So the IBJJF is that old, huh? Like, so they're from the 90s. So the instructors wore a blue belt and everyone else was a perpetual white belt back in the day, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's interesting then. So the criteria, because this is the debate, right? And everyone wants to be like, oh, he's not a true black belt, or that's a sucky black belt, or, you know, like the different categories, right? So now you get into what's referred to as your lineage. What's a lineage? What are they talking about when people refer to that?
Yeah, lineage is the family tree.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you keep tracing back, where does our lineage go? Like our lineage above us is Danny Alvarez and then Bruno Bastos. Like, where is our jiu-jitsu originate from?
Well, so we're actually like Bastos isn't in our lineage. So we're like purebred horses, basically. Yeah, is really what it is. Yeah, so Danny didn't get his black belt under Bruno. Yeah, so we actually got a YouTube. I'm gonna have to put the link in here in our YouTube video. It's in our onboarding, right? You follow it back. Like you follow back. It's how do you tie back to the Grandmaster, you know, Helios Gracie? Like because it's so new. It's how should you be able to follow that, right? Does that make you feel? Does that seem? How do you feel about that? Does that feel like? I don't know how I feel about that. Like that, your value is like, well, you need to go back to one person. Like that's like does that seem like a pyramid scheme to you a little bit? Like, how do you feel about that? I understand that's how it's done, but how do you personally feel about that?
I mean, I don't think that plays as much of a role today. You know, if you know nothing about jiu-jitsu, then you're like, well, where's your lineage from? Who you under? Like, who's your sensei or whatever? And you know, jiu-jitsu has evolved and grown so much that, you know, there's good jiu-jitsu and good systems and affiliations like everywhere.
I agree. I know, and technically, because I think that how they used to do it is because they didn't want the Gracies marketed jiu-jitsu. I mean, they built a brand.
Yeah, the
brand of jiu-jitsu. They built that brand, and today, I mean, the Gracies are still some of the best marketers and branders. You know, Hayner specifically is like great at it. Hayner was on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
right now, talking about his sweater jacket thing. So they market it well, but now they have a brand of jiu-jitsu. Just like you can't just go open a box and be like, hey, we teach CrossFit. CrossFit's trademarked.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure that like their brand was pure and unadulterated. So they're like, well, are you a true Gracie black belt? Show me how you connect to Helios. Because they would only promote. I mean, these guys would train for a quarter of a century before they'd get a black belt. You know, under certain people, right? So that's how it ties back to you. And you don't think that your lineage matters as much anymore, whether you're under Hoist or under You know, whether you go back to Hoist or whether you go back to the Hoyler or Hickson or whoever.
You know, the goal of jiu-jitsu back then and now is to teach people how to defend themselves. Okay, so we are sport and competition based, but that is the goal. So, and at every level that you progress, an athlete progresses, you're validated, whether with, you know, from the coach or your belt system, that you have progressed from one level to another. And you know, the goal of every instructor should be to get them to know how to defend themselves, to fight, to compete, and get a black belt. They're all the same thing, but they're all individual progressive stages that you have to keep in mind. So that is my goal as an instructor. I want to get somebody to black belt. And when I say I want to get somebody to black belt, it's also saying I want to get them to evolve and change and get in better shape, learn how to defend themselves, you know, learn how to compete, manage their emotions. So
have you seen have you seen that video? You mentioned managing your emotions. Have you seen that video of that purple belt who's stuck in guard at a federation tournament, and his girlfriend Natalie is trying to help him, and she's like, he's just gonna hold you. I mean, you know, I don't know if Natalie trains. I don't know. Like when Amanda's coaching me, I can count on hearing two things: the time remaining and let's go, Dave. But like that's what I can count on here. So, and that's like the she doesn't train. That's the capacity which he's in guard. Did you see this video?
No, I did not.
He's in guard. He's in guard. And she's like, he's just gonna hold you there. And he's like, shut up, Natalie! Like just screams it. Like the whole stadium goes silent. Like the ref is like, you know, I think he might have given him like a disadvantage. Dude, if I'm the ref, I'm DQing you on the spot. And then like we're gonna have go talk with your coach. Zero mental composure. And I think it's worth noting, like if you're gonna treat your girl like that on the mat in front of a crowd, you know, Natalie, like if you need help, make sure you reach out to somebody, because like that's like, what are you doing in the privacy of your own home? I got serious questions, dude. But you mentioned composure. That's a huge thing to it. And so is to get a black belt now, because what I like about Coach Carl is he says over time his standards for brown and black, eventually black belt, have changed. They've tightened. So poor Natalie, they've tightened. So it's not just good enough. Like if someone wins the world championship at brown belt under Palm Jiu-Jitsu, that's not a guaranteed black belt from him. So he has much stricter personal standards. So that's what led this whole podcast is what are some things that we're looking for to have a Metro Jiu-Jitsu black belt? Because that's important. It's more than just is your jiu-jitsu good? Yeah.
You know, Kyle Terra, when he was a brown belt, he was competing and he was doing like phenomenal. He was beating everything, everybody, everywhere, many different weight divisions, and he's not a big guy. And you know, he thought he was going to get promoted at some of these majors that he won. And there was a tournament that he competed in and he lost. And I think he took second place, and he was promoted on the podium, second place. And
to what? Which belt?
To black.
Oh, to black. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So his instructor told him, he said, "Look, I don't want to promote you for winning because then you and everybody around you think that you need to win in order to get to get promoted." And he said, "You know, your journey in jiu-jitsu comes with lots of losses. And that is going to be your job in jiu-jitsu, is to teach people how to continue to persevere, to continue to train, to compete if it might be." And he validated him on the losers podium, on the second place podium versus the first. So yeah, even successful like professional athletes that you and I might see in the circuit, even their benchmark is not all about winning. Because even like the best in the world have their losses and they have their down spouts in jiu-jitsu. So,
well, and you can So there's the technical side, right? There's the jiu-jitsu side.
Yeah.
And if you want to use that metric, you can use the competition, right? But there's only, if you only reserve the black belt for the best, then there would only be one black belt per weight division.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the technical side of that, but then we also went into like the personal side. I think it's a really, ironically, we're talking, you're not going to get a black belt from us at Metro if you're a poor human being. Bottom line. So there's a level of morality there because I hold much higher standards to our high ranks. Like purple, we've said this before. The spread between purple and black is not nearly what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a solid 4-stripe purple is a good matchup for a black belt. If they got, depending on their styles and games. So what does that morality and that personality look like? What are some traits that we're looking for? And then I want to share a story that Coach Carl actually shared at his belt promotions this past week.
Yeah, like at that level, you're considered. You're probably. I mean, I've seen people quit at brown belt, but at black, purple, brown, you're considered a lifer in jiu-jitsu. You know everything you need to know.
The odds of you quitting go down.
Yeah,
pretty drastic.
Way down. It's still an uphill battle to get to the black, but I think a big thing at that level has to be to give back to the community that you're in.
And what does that look like?
That could mean like, teaching, coaching, reinforcing like the community. You have a big like barbecue or family reunion. You need facilitators to kind of keep and connect the whole community together. And I think the more brown and blacks that you have, they're the glue that connects, us two between so many other people, because we can only touch so many people at one time. And I think brown and blacks are, a good one. You don't have to worry about them. You don't have to worry about like the ugly culture that is, that's not good for your.
Can depend. I think a lot about like, what I think, and I think that's why you hold this. I mean, we hear a really poor and ugly habit or ugly trend that we see a lot in the jiu-jitsu industry is that people, they wait because they're like, they're told, they're indoctrinated. Oh, you can't open a school at purple belt. So they wait till they're brown or black belt. And I've seen it even within a month of getting promoted. They get that promotion and then they go and open up 6 miles away from their coach's academy and try to steal all the students. It doesn't get filthier than that. I mean, it doesn't get filthier than that. Like we've got a roadmap. We actually encourage people like, hey, if you want to open up, we're here to help you. But what that shows is like you had no loyalty, number one, and number two, and no disconcern for the other's livelihood. I mean, within 6 miles, you're sharing that pool, right? You're sharing that pool of like you're competing for the same customers. 10 miles, probably not so much, depending on your demographic or your congestion of your area. So I think that's why it goes more into play. Like it really matters more. It's not just these guys' technique. It's what do they stand for, and where does your moral fiber lie when things get difficult or tested. Honestly, that's why I'm personally grateful for everything that has happened the past 3 years. I'm personally grateful for that. What about you?
Yeah. That's one of the things that jiu-jitsu teaches you is you have to have a good work ethic. You have to have discipline. And you learn that in your entire journey of jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And, without discipline, we would not be here today. Without discipline, you're not going to get into the gym when you're uncomfortable. You're not going to get into the gym when you're busy. Mm-hmm. When you do have some things, you're not going to feel like working out or training. Another big thing for us to level up in jiu-jitsu belts is you have to have discipline. Mm. So
discipline's a big one. What about so discipline? We've got for sure discipline. I mean, is one. What does I don't want to leave, morality yet. If you caught someone in a lie, they worthy of a black belt? A bit, and we'll say a lie. I believe a lie is a lie, but we'll say like they've lied. Let me make it more brazen. They're cheating on their wife. They've got a side piece.
Oh, David.
Okay, I'll give my answer.
Okay.
No, I'm not giving you are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? I'm not signing off on your black belt. In fact, I'm probably going to call your wife. Are you kidding me? Like, if you're cheating on your wife, don't let me know. Because first call, it's either, are you going to tell her or am I going to tell? Like, I don't want to hear that.
No, and it's a good point. You have to have good morality, and if you have certain habits, nobody's perfect, but if you have certain habits, it does reflect everything else you do. So if you're, if you're cheating in any way, it's going to you're going to be cheating in other areas of your.
It's reflective. It's reflective of the inside.
Yeah, that's not a small one, and I mean, I guess since we're on the subject, if a student was ready for black, but he was committing adultery, our job is not to get into people's personal life and business, but if you're cheating one area, you're going to cheat again. It's like saying you can't stop somebody from stealing, you can only catch them.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to steal, they're going to steal. If they're going to cheat, they're going to cheat. So it's not a matter of stopping them; it's a matter of catching them. And if those habits translated on the mat, then definitely that would hold somebody back.
Because I think it gives like a. I'm seeing more and more. I don't know if they're just coming out, but there've been a lot of sexual assault cases with very well-known black belts in other parts of the country. And it's such an ugly look when like, if that's the pinnacle of your art, right? If that's the pinnacle, I mean, sure, you can go into like red belts and whatever, but like, the black belt is what everyone's like, hey, that's what I want to reach out to go get. And then you have a big figure like that. And there's not just one of them, they've been charged with this and convicted in some cases. That's a really ugly thing. And so you can never know. Cause again, like if you have a black belt with us, we've spent a decade with you, but it's not that intimacy is not always the same. I don't know how people are doing it there. You can't always know what people are doing at home, in the workplace or whatever, but it will vet out a lot. It will show through. And I think it matters, right? And what would be like just a travesty for me is to like have, God forbid, have one of those accusations come down on our black belts like that. I think that would be a really poor reflection. Again, you can't guarantee it, but that's something I would be really, really mindful of. Moving on to discipline, Coach Carl. I want to share the story that Coach Carl shared at Palm Jiu-Jitsu in Saginaw. He one of his brown belts has been training for 16 years. 16 years he's been training. He pretty much was there when they opened. And when he got his fourth stripe, Coach Carl said to him, he's like, hey, do you remember what I said to you? I want you to get your physical fitness in shape. And honestly, if we're being honest, he wasn't like, I wouldn't have called him morbidly obese. I mean, he was heavier. He was absolutely heavier, sure. Out of shape, yeah, definitely. And I think even he would say that. But I see him now. He lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
He's 47 or like 46, 47 years old.
Wow.
So you would know. Is it harder to lose 50 pounds in your 40s than your 30s?
Oh, totally. And you know what? To do it, that's a testament of what the discipline of being a black belt is. And you're a black belt before you get the black belt. And we're talking about Larry, right?
Yeah, Larry. Yeah.
Yeah. So Larry was a black belt before he got the black belt, and he needed to prove it to himself, and he did it by losing 50 pounds.
Yeah, and
congratulations.
And that's and that's a testament for sure. And then so that discipline comes into play, and then we're also looking for, you would kind of tied into this with community, but selflessness. And when you climb those ranks, it's highly likely that when you come in for class that day, it's highly likely that what coach is going to be showing that day will be a form of review for you. It's highly likely. I mean, if you've been doing something for 7 years, it's, it's highly likely that you're not going to get something groundbreaking and earth-shattering every single day. So now it's okay. Well, if you've seen something and you're sitting next to a blue belt, you're a brown belt, you're sitting next to a blue belt, do you take the approach of, well, what am I going to get out of this class, or what can I put into this class? So what about that selflessness?
Yeah, like after a certain level in any sport, you're reviewing. And like the best coaches in the world don't come in. It's like, holy cow, I've never seen that before. They're making minor adjustments in your technique and your overall performance. And that's really what that's really another that's another way to show that you are getting close, because you're learning smaller things. Like you're having a bunch of aha moments in the beginning. So in order, if you accept that, then you're coming to class knowing a lot of the material, and you have to put your team and the people around you first, because at white, blue, and purple, you were there before, and it took other people to develop the rest of the team. So that's not so you have to be able to put your teammates around you, and for the sake of the team and for the sake of knowledge, because that's our job, is to get smarter and get more educated in jiu-jitsu, in the human body.
And I think that's, you actually mentioned something really good. Craig Funk was quoting someone else who I can't remember. He said this, and this, I actually started taking this to heart. It was, he said, when you go to every class, treat it like a private lesson. So a private lesson, you may like see, again, a lot of it could be review, but then you just take away that one thing, that one detail, like, oh, well, that's gonna increase the effectiveness of this move by 40% with this one detail. So if you're looking at, and we see, I've got, feel like a pretty good grasp on the single X and the ankle lock, but then I'm always looking for details to it, like, that's it. That's an interesting, I'll have to try that. So that with each new gear that you add on, each new tab you add on that gear, it becomes tighter and tighter. Well, with the same thing, so you could be looking for that, but then also there may be, like you said, a blue or a purple. They don't understand. You were just polishing up the micro details of that move. They are totally missing the macro details of that move.
Yeah, I've been studying a lot of jiu-jitsu for our curriculum, and I know like some attacks in a few different areas of jiu-jitsu. I know them very, very well.
Sure.
But my body, my physical limitations are going to be different than somebody else's, and the next person. So, as a black belt and as a coach, we have to be extremely selfless. We have to be selfless, and putting our students first to get them as much knowledge and as much information as possible, and not just focus on what I like and what I want to do.
Sure, absolutely.
So it goes all the way to the top.
Next category we have is stress tested.
Yeah.
So stress tested. This is both on the mat and off the mat. I had mentioned, I'm really grateful for the past 3 years, because people were put under a lot of stress, and it's easy to have ethics and have morals when there's nothing at stake. It's very easy to have ethics and morals when there's nothing at stake. When something becomes at stake, now that's the true stress test. So the stress test in your jiu-jitsu technique, I mean, it's either a street fight or a competition, or I guess an MMA fight. Like those are the way you stress test. So we don't really do cage fighting here. So we don't have, do we have any cage fighters at the moment?
We have a bunch of
active. Yeah, we have a lot of former cage fighters, but active cage fighters, I don't know if we have. I don't think we have any like who are actively training for a fight. But we have a lot of retired. They're like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just gonna do jiu-jitsu. A lot of retired cage fighters, and that's a way to stress test it. But now, if you stress test off the mat, what does that look like? What are we looking for there? how you handle being stress tested off the mat.
I'm texting Nancy back.
How you respond. One category would be how you respond to. I think even your
Off of the mat?
Yeah, I would say how you lose, but that would be your stress test is your hard skills, right? Your hard skills of your jiu-jitsu is your hard skill. So let's say if you win that match, I'm paying just as much attention to how you win, as I am to how you lose. So if you're an ugly, and there are ugly winners, dude. If you're an ugly winner and you're disgracing your opponent and you're like going on social media and you're like, yeah, look at me tearing this guy up and just really like taking it over, like I'm paying attention to that. Same thing if you lose, if you throw a hissy fit, if you're the dude yelling at Natalie, like I'm also paying. That's a stress. You got to see this video, dude. Like it's honestly embarrassing for all parties involved. So that's a stress test. What are some stress tests you're looking at?
As a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Yeah, I mean, like what could that reveal your character? Because I'm thinking like that reveals character.
Yeah. So the stress test, we are tested all day, every day.
Sure.
So like there's stress tests going on at home. If you have children with your children, there's stress tests going on at your job, with your boss, with your coworkers, when you're driving down the road, with the people that are maybe not so nice at the restaurant or, anywhere. There's stress tests going on everywhere. Competition in jiu-jitsu is one stress test that happens at a certain place in time that you get to prepare for.
Sure.
And, the benefit of training jiu-jitsu and competing is, there's a test coming up, you're going to be stressed. You voluntarily step into that.
Yeah.
And, you show yourself, most importantly, how you're going to handle the stress and how you're going to, whether it's a successful stress test or not so successful stress test.
Yeah.
So, I would say that that's what jiu-jitsu does. It helps you prepare for like hundreds of micro stress tests that are going on all day long. So, we're stress tested every day on bigger levels.
Sure.
I know at the end of class, you do like tournament style matches, where the whole team is watching. For some people, that's stressful.
Coach. I borrowed that from Coach Alvarez. He does those.
Yeah,
I like those a lot.
Some people are stressed when they have to coach. Some people are stressed, for whatever reason. But jiu-jitsu is definitely, that's probably one of the biggest things it does for people. It helps you manage stress.
Yeah,
a stressful situation.
Absolutely. I mean, the mental health is the main reason people train because generally people don't like confrontation, right? And that's one of the things that the internet has. I don't think the internet has really directly helped that, because what they've done is they've given you this insulation to where you can act. It's where keyboard warriors come from. Like you can act real tough on keyboard, right? You can act really tough. And then I've had people act really, really tough or make a comment that they may not realize this. And then I see them in person and it's like, hey, how you doing, brother? And I'm the type, like, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. And if we have beef, I'm going to talk to you about it. Right. Or if you have beef with me and you don't bring it up to me, then it's clearly not important enough, so I think that the internet has done a great job at really helping people feel tough artificially, right? They feel tough and they feel that they can handle it artificially. And then when it comes to the real life, when you have to send your food back, when you're the waitress, the barista, and people are being rude to you, when you're the postman, when you're on the phone, customer service, how people handle on the phone with even someone as simple as customer service. I mean, that combo you and I were talking about the other day, where there was nothing, it was a government agency, nothing this lady could do to help me. I mean, she is just one small peg in one terribly ran machine. What am I going to do? Chew her out, ruin her day so that she can still not be able to help me? I mean, those are options. And so how you control your emotions, is a form of stress test. And that stuff matters so much less when you're like, all right, well, take this worst case scenario. It's, I have to be patient in this area, or I have to extend some grace in this area. Worst case scenario in jiu-jitsu is you choked out and eventually you die if you need that, right? Like that's, so when you put things in perspective there, like that's it kind of pales in comparison. And people, man, I see why people quit. I understand why people quit, but it's not for everyone to continue with. So those are some stress tests that we look for personally. What were your requirements for you to get a black belt?
There really was none. Yeah, there really.
How'd you know if you were close?
Well, I mean, from Alvarez, I think it would say like his exact words were when we went to the Dallas Open, we competed there. You and I,
a couple of times.
Yeah. He's like, man, I just wanted to see that you can get down. And
he's heavy in competition.
Yeah, he's like, I just wanted to see. He told me this after. It wasn't like he didn't put any pressure on me, but I just felt like he needed to see me in the fight.
Yeah, and he's like he likes competitors. Yeah,
he does. And he was like, I saw you and you got into these spots, and I'm watching you, and I'm like, he's doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was like that. I got my neck cranked in the first match, and I heard it go tick, 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 tick.
That's tough, dude.
Yeah, from like a reverse triangle, and all I could think about is being, oh my God, my first match. I'm gonna go out like this, and I can hear my neck ticking. And then
that jacked you up for a minute, though. Afterwards.
I couldn't move. Yeah, and I had 4 matches after that. I was out for like 3 months. But you know what, David? That moment in time, I could have tapped.
Sure, yeah.
And I it would have been responsible of me to tap.
It would have been understandable, dude.
But I just felt like I was there. I was really motivated, to compete. I love competition.
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, I was being stress tested.
Yeah.
Stress tested.
That's a stress test.
It really was. And when you are stress tested, you have to catch your breath, you have to remain calm, and you have to use your head to get out of trouble.
Sure.
And honestly, that one match, that's exactly what I did. And if jiu-jitsu has taught me anything, it's to, whoever loses their temper first, they lose the fight.
Yeah.
Even if it's an argument.
Yeah, man. That's certainly a stress test too. Because I mean, you've got tournaments, dude. You've got your friends. You've got some cases you have your family, especially like men. Like they, a lot of times they're white. That was one of the hardest things for me to get over. Was like I feel like I obviously believe men should be able to protect their wives, and then like I go to a tournament and I'm like, this is like she's gonna see if I can actually do what I say. Like Amanda one time sent me this meme. My wife sent me this meme. She sent me this meme one time, and it was like this girl looking at the guy, and the guy just got his hands in his head. And she's like, jiu-jitsu is all you do. And you're really, really bad at it. That's all. And I think I was like a purple or a blue belt at the time. Because my MO in tournaments was pull guard. If it went my way, great. If it didn't, I would retreat to turtle and stay there. And so now I've made like that ever since then. I've been like, I don't care. My matches will be exciting. Like my matches will move. Like I don't care if I lose in the first 60 seconds. It's gonna be a violent 60 seconds. Like that's my MO.
Mama Bear Amanda, she's no joke.
She's vicious, man. Like she's like quiet if you don't know her, but when you get to know her, she makes me look mild. So that's what we got, guys. So a couple comments. I've been looking at them. IBJJF came up with the belt system. Poor Natalie, dude. I gotta send you that video, man. I gotta send you that video of that dude. I'd be like, I never want that to happen. for our guys. Coach Mark says there are 14 leadership traits and principles. Coach Mark is obviously former military hockey coach of a couple decades. Bearing, courage, decisiveness, dependability, endurance, enthusiasm, initiative, integrity, judgment, justice, knowledge, loyalty, tact, and unselfishness. I'd be curious to see where those are from.
What's up, Chris Holmes?
Really, really curious to see.
Hey, Matt Watson. What's
That's
on,
good
brother?
practice because it's important to maintain a skill. Yeah, and that's on that note. Like we're hosting a women's self-defense seminar, and I've been seeing a lot more of these on Downriver and Friends, that group. Women's self-defense.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're looking for. A lot so we're hosting a seminar, but it's with the understanding that like you will not leave there and really be much more better. I mean, you'll have some skills, right? But it's like it would be like it's a perishable skill. It's a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you will lose it. I mean, how do you feel if you take 2 weeks off the mat?
Oh,
Feel crisp?
No.
Feel like you feel like your powers are leaving you, right?
Look, in a fight in self-defense situation,
Sure.
There's no rules, so you should be scratching,
Yeah.
biting, like anything. A fight is a fight.
Not in here though. Don't scratch me in here. I'm not gonna be. It might turn into a fight
In the
Scratch me
street.
in
I'm
here.
talking about
in this industry.
in a real self-defense fight.
Sure.
But for women in self-defense seminars, like it's good. It doesn't matter what they're learning or what I know everyone, jiu-jitsu is what I would want my wife and my daughters to take.
Of course.
But women just need to get out there and just get a little bit familiar with somebody grabbing you or holding your hand or, taking you by surprise or whatever, like jiu-jitsu or whatever. I think women in self-defense seminars need to be an ongoing thing. It's very empowering for the women.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. And even I mean, honestly, like you get a woman who fights back and then starts making a scene in the process. I mean, that could be enough. That could be enough to because a lot of these guys, if you're attacking a woman, you're a pansy. Like you're weak, you're a coward. You're not going to want, you're usually not going to want like a strong target. You're going to want like a weak target. And if, and that even goes back to body language too. So that's it. We always try to keep these guys under an hour. So if you have any questions, hit us in the comments. We'll respond later. And as always, we'll see you on the mats.
Matt.